really difficult. The overall relationship, or the overall dynamics right now, this year, I mean, like forever, but mostly this year, so simple. I said it before, say it again, it's all about freedom. Humanity is in this struggle for freedom, or what they think is freedom. Tremendous, that's the biggest duality right now that's taking place on the planet, and it's showing up in so many different ways. So many different ways. And it will continue that way this year into next year. It's all about freedom. So many people calling for freedom, but what are you reading in the news? It's not about this group, this person, that person becoming free. And not at all. What you're hearing about is entrapment, enslavement, limitation, hypnotism that's happening on this planet. I'm digressing here, but I'll get back to my point. The level of hypnosis on this planet right now is, using your words, off the charts. It's so easy to do. It's so easy. The mind is so vulnerable right now. And this will make sense later on. But the mind is extremely vulnerable, and people don't get it. There's a dynamic for freedom. People say they want freedom. But as I said a number of years ago, and was certainly criticized for it, they really don't. They really don't. They think they want freedom. And a lot of leaders will say, we're giving you more freedom, but they're not. Very few humans are ready for true freedom. And that's why I honor each and every one of you. You struggle with it, but I know at the core, that's what you're ready for. Humans generally want a little bit easier life. They like to gripe about things. Have you noticed that? And they want things a little easier, but not really freedom. Not if it was handed to them on a silver plate and said, you could have absolute freedom, financial, physical, spiritual, everything. Because I might also have to say, it's going to change your life. And it might change your relationships, and it might change the way you think, and your job, and your future, and everything else. And they say, let me think it over. Boom, got them. Because the minute they start thinking, they are so, rather than choosing, they are so vulnerable to everything else, everyone else. I talked down in Colombia about hypnosis and how it's being used by groups. And you could say, oh, this is terrible. It's been going on for a long time. They're just refining it now. This thing with remote hypnosis, these groups that are intentionally putting, you could call them thought waves out there. They don't have to be in front of you with a watch and wake up, wake up. They don't have to be in front of you with a watch or anything like that. That's so passé. That's so 1800s. It's very different now. It can be sent virtually, instantly in the airwaves. And somebody that doesn't know how to choose, that really isn't wanting freedom, somebody that can't discern their thoughts from anybody else's, is going to pick up on it. It's actually so easy to do. You don't have to be a master mesmerizer at all. You just have to know how to project a thought and put it out there, how to dress it up, package it for the right audience, and then just see if they pick it up or not. But speaking of remote hypnosis, anybody have a clue where it originated in modern times?
Russia.
Did I hear Russia? Anywhere else? Anyone? Romania. So pick on Romania, would you? Where else? Russia, Romania. Where did this remote hypnosis, these trained specialists gather together, go into somewhat of a trance state, but it doesn't have to be a deep trance, project thoughts out? Military. How about it originated, to me, in the Vatican? In the Vatican, absolutely. And do you know what it was called at the time? prayer. Now you do the now. Prayer. Now, it wasn't done necessarily for sinister purposes, but they found out, if we pray for someone who's sick, it kind of has an effect. They think it's divine intervention. Pfft. It's simply hypnosis. Somebody can be hypnotized into feeling better, wherever our chart is there. Somebody could be hypnotized into feeling better. Why? They pick up a thought, a mental packet that says you're better. Suddenly they are. That is, give me my book back, your book. That is an act of consciousness. They acted. Okay, they picked it up. So from that, priests and bishops and cardinals gathered around and said, this prayer thing, there's more to it. What if we prayed for more money? I was there, I saw it. What if we prayed for more money? What if we prayed for power?
Ooh.
What if we prayed for world dominance? Never pray for to dominate the world. You don't understand what you're getting with that package. It's not very pretty. So they realized that with what some of you now call intention, prayer, directed, focused mental thought.
You're coughing. You need something to drink.
I'm coughing. I'm so excited. that actually it had an effect. Now, they didn't understand how or why. They didn't. This goes back 500, 600, 700 years ago, but they knew it worked. Now, they thought it was some, intervention from God or something. They didn't care. They really didn't care. Let's pray now for more members. Let's pray that we do a certain thing a certain way. Well, this was picked up later by governments, of course. What's a government without their sinister plots? And used by military, used by a lot of people now, and they put it in, they call it different things. It's still prayer. At its basics, it's yes, I pray that David will be nice to me. And it's a thought that's put out there. Now, the reality is that it's kind of like a wave, kind of like a radio current that goes out there, but it actually is actually more powerful, more efficient. And it goes out, and it can be picked up by anyone. Or you can really focus it. You can narrow the thought spectrum so it just has the potential to land on certain people. The thought by itself really is, it cannot make you do something that you don't want to do. But most people have no clue who they are, what they want to do, why they're here. They just know they need to eat, they need to have a place to sleep, and have sex, a few of the other basic things. But other than that, no clue. So they're very vulnerable. They don't understand the difference between consciousness and thought. They don't understand what energy is. They don't understand too much of anything. So they're very, very susceptible, particularly when a hypnotic thought, remote hypnosis is packaged in a certain way, and it's instant. It doesn't take, you could send it across the universe instantly, and they accept it as their own. So the level of hypnotic thought and suggestion is at an all-time high across the planet. Some very deliberate, some rather clumsy, some just the everyday act of living. And it's out there. It affects all of you until you make a choice. What's yours, what's not. Denise, you're accepting a lot of stuff, a lot of things in your life that aren't yours. You claim they are. You claim they come from past lives, from your childhood, from experiences in your life. Nah, they're not. They are not yours, unless you want them to be. The only thing that's yours is what you choose. Even if you think it came from your past, even if you think it's your bad habit, even if you think that you can't do anything about it. It's not yours. Not yours at all, unless you choose it. So you get rid of all the crap that's not yours, literally, figuratively. So what you're seeing is, first of all, we're moving outside of the mental era that's been around for a long, long time. This planet is moving outside of the mental. But there's so much intensity and pressure, and people don't understand what their thoughts are. In other words, where thought comes from. They don't understand the true feeling and true essence. So they're going out of their minds. And to add company to the misery, and this is one of the things that we're going to be working on or playing with, actually, is that hypnosis is prevalent on this planet. It's right up there with SES, the sexual energy virus. And it wasn't ever brought in a sinister way. It just kind of happened that the mind became very good at taking things in from the outside that didn't belong to it and owning it, but yet rejecting its own true feelings and what I would call true thoughts rather than the emotional self or limited self thoughts. So it's kind of an odd quirk in the human intelligence. That's kind of an oxymoron. The thinking that, so it takes in thoughts that don't belong to it. That's why some days you have a bad day, is because this, you can have a couple of good days, for instance, because you're in your energy, but then something pops you back out into everything out there, and you feel it, because you're still tuned into it, you're still kind of dialed into it, and suddenly you do the crash. And then you blame it on yourself. What's wrong with me? Why am I having a bad day? Did I eat the wrong kind of food? Did I not do the right kind of allowing? Am I a bad person at heart? And, all these other things. No, it's just you're going through the intensity. That's where you take a deep breath and stop worrying about it. You stop worrying about it. You're just passing through. This is just a gig. You're just having a good time, right? Yeah. Good. Oof. Oof. So let me point out two other problems that actually I would say go above any of these. Actually take a higher priority. They're a bit more difficult to understand. Two problems. Yes. And you'll see this in yourself, and perhaps you'll see it as a problem or a condition of the planet. First of all, it's a mental era. It is the pinnacle of Atlantean mental activity. The pinnacle of that activity didn't happen in Atlantis. It's happening here right now. Things have gone mental. Very little creativity, very little vision. Everything is in the mind. The mind is wonderful up to a point, but it's very limited. Very, very limited. And you have a very mental network. And a mental network, consciousness network, stays into itself. It is incestuous. And you know what happens in the case of incense? It eventually causes a lot of disturbing patterns. Why? Because it wants to blow itself up eventually. Can't stand to be in that confined type of network. You've got a very mental mass consciousness network going on. Something's got to get it out of there, or it will either blow up or implode, one of the two. Can't go on like it is. That is what's happening with you personally right now. You're getting out of your mind network. And it's hell, because you're trying to do it from your mind network. And it won't work. It has to, the outside influence has to come from somewhere else. It's your divine intelligence. It's your you. It's your I am. You can't think your way into enlightenment. You can't think your way out of your mind at all. So mind era is number one. Closely tied into that is hypnosis. You could turn the clock back a little bit. Yeah. So number two is hypnosis. And we'll talk more about this in our next gathering. But Humanity is basically hypnotized right now, and they're loving it. They asked for it, and they're getting it. They don't think for themselves or act for themselves or do for themselves. And they've gotten lazy and lethargic. And even if I told them that you are so hypnotized, and not speaking to you, but like I was speaking to them, you're so hypnotized, and they just have that big grin on their face. Just as long as they get a little bit of circus and cake, a little bit of pleasure just to keep them going. So hypnosis is a big problem. How do you get beyond hypnosis? Choice. Thank you. Thank you. Did you get an award today? You get one now. You get another one.
Does she
That
get
was
another
brilliant.
one? She gets another one.
Another one. Choice. That's how you can do it as visionaries for this planet, to make a choice for yourself. Work with choices. So, my dear friends, now let's bring this into summary in our waning minutes here. Let's take a deep breath. In our Discovery series, you're also going to discover that there are no beliefs. Yeah, you can write down no beliefs. There are no beliefs. You believe that they're beliefs, but there's not. It's perhaps a statement that is going to be argued about and discussed a lot, but it's my contention that there really are no beliefs. There is heavy programming. And there's certain parts of the programming that you take as your own and say that's your beliefs, but there's really no such thing as beliefs. They're really not. People hang their hat on beliefs. I believe this, I believe that. I contend it's all just massive programming. Programming that you've allowed, programming that's occurred for as long as humans have been around, and even before then. Programming that has gotten more intense and deeper than ever before. If you feel into a typical human walking down the street, just feel into their energy. There are a myriad of chaotic energy patterns and lines caused by a lot of programming. Programming that actually is not consistent, doesn't follow any nice path. It's all over. A person can have the belief that they love themselves and hate themselves at the same time, that the world is good, the world is bad, that water is cold or warm, all these things. And these, what they call beliefs, what I call programming, are inconsistent, will eventually lead one to a total breakdown if they believe their beliefs. Mental breakdown, if they believe their beliefs. So we're going to learn and discover that there are no beliefs, that it was all programming, and we'll learn how to release that programming, Linda, how to release it rather than to fight it, how to understand that it's not yours rather than to take on the guilt and the suffering, thinking that you created it, then you're a bad person, and all the rest of that. We're going to go beyond beliefs. Can you imagine for a moment being without belief? I don't believe it. Imagine for a moment having the freedom of no belief. Some people would say, but then what do I do? Who am I? That's been part of my identity, is to have my beliefs. And they're actually hurting you more than they're helping you. You actually create new beliefs based on whole programming to try to resolve things or smooth things over in your life. But what you're really doing is hiding them, sweeping them under the carpet. So we're going to go after beliefs this year. We're going to release beliefs down to the naked you without beliefs. So anyway, a lot going on in this planet, a lot of energies, and you're going to continue to see it for a while, the great shift, whatever you want to call it. Remember, I have to underline this. I want to underline it 10 times. It's not about you. I don't care how much you think it is. You're trying to hold on and pretend it is. It's not about you. It's really not. Nope. Part of you is taking a lot of this on. You're taking these out. You're a big energy receiver and transmitter. You're a psychic receiver. You're picking up all this stuff that's going on out there, and you're taking it on as your own. You camouflage it. You kind of rebuild it. You disguise it to pretend it's a personal emotional problem, to pretend it's your abundance problem or your relationship problem. It's not. How many times have we had to say this? A lot. Because you keep thinking, well, Adamus must be talking to Timothy, not to me. Adamus must be talking to everyone else because I still have all these problems. They're not yours. You are very sensitive beings on some level. You're feeling what's going on, but you are doing this twist once it gets to you and pretending that it's yours. Some of you still go by the theory that who would you be if you didn't have problems? Truly, problems, the set of problems that you lay out in front of you, wake up to every morning and go to bed with every night, reminds you that you're alive, gives that brain of yours something to deal with. It gives you emotion and drama. Oh, and I know part of you curses and cusses and says, I want to be over these problems. And please don't spit at me, but you must want them, otherwise they wouldn't be there. Really. Really. If you really didn't want those problems, they really wouldn't be there. So I said it last year, I said it the year before.
It's a shield, so nobody can hit you.
No, just here. You stand here. So I've said it last year, I said it the year before. If there is something going on in your life, and it's there on a repetitive basis, if it's something going on, there must be something you like about the game. Part of you obviously hates the game, but part of you loves the game. Go win. You're the boss. You're the creator. What is it that you really like about it? Because that's why it's there. There's no other reason. It's not being inflicted on you from anywhere else, by anyone else. Including, I would have to say, including by your aspects. Because if it's there, even if an aspect is creating it, you're letting that aspect create it. You're letting that aspect mess with you. You're letting that aspect really keep you from being your own BFF. Let me go one step further in this. Do you know what algorithms are? An algorithm is it's used in software. It's a process that takes place for a particular end result. Or in mathematics, there are algorithms. There are mathematical formulas that lead to a final answer. Algorithm basically means the flow, the pattern that gets to a certain outcome. There is a God algorithm. Algorithms. They're not like digital algorithms or scientific algorithms or nature. Even nature has its patterns, its algorithms. Algorithms ultimately are based on belief systems. You say, no, but it's mathematical, it's truth. Math is just a belief system. Or you say, well, no, it's digital, and the algorithm to certain software has to be certain ways. No, it's still just a belief system. It's the flow of consciousness which attracts energies which bring some type of end result, some type of manifestation. So ultimately, every algorithm is the result of a belief system. There's a God algorithm right now on the planet. There is a flow, a process that takes place. Comes as a result of people's belief systems, creates certain patterns that wind up in certain manifestations or creations. The unrestricted, the free God algorithm is the very thing that, you know how you say sometimes, the matter of circumstances where something happened, I met a person. The chances of that, the two of us meeting at this time, this place, with all the variables, almost impossible, magical. No, it's actually a God algorithm that creates all the circumstances, even if it involves hundreds of other people, even if it seems to be by chance. It's just a God algorithm. Sometimes what you would think to be very, very complex, because there's all these layers, all these things that are happening, all these potential chances and improbabilities and everything else. But in the God algorithm, the Theo algorithm, the what I would say the light algorithm, it's so easy. The human mind, it's baffling and overwhelming. But if I hadn't turned at a certain moment to hear a noise that was suddenly there, to see a person who I glanced at them just at the side, but it was somebody that I've had to meet because they were going to tell me about some new opportunity. If that noise hadn't been there, you're like, oh my God, life is so risky. And it's like, what if? In the God algorithm, it's no problem. It just flows. It just happens. It's just there. The algorithm basically comes from passion and desire, and not human so much, but a deep inner passion that creates what I'm going to call light, but not like these lights, a stream of light, basically kind of like a stream of consciousness, but not quite. Let's just call it a stream of light, a radiance of consciousness that goes out. It attracts, basically in this reality, 3 different types of energies: electric, magnetic, and something I call plunk. It's right up there. Nobody knows about it yet. Science doesn't know about it. But plunk is basically, it's a real word that we use. It's basically gravity, but in a kind of a different way than what you know gravity to be. It has a tremendous influence on ultimate manifestation. There is gravity, as you know, because when you drop something on the floor, when you drop it, it falls. There's also anti-gravity, the kind of like the reverse of gravity. It's not that it sucks it up, but the gravitational force brings something or repels something. Gravity just isn't a physical phenomena, it is an emotional phenomena. There is gravity in your emotions. It's a phenomena of your passion, your desire as well. It attracts or repels things. So you put that in conjunction with magnetics and with electronics, electric impulses. So you got this beam of light, kind of like the stream of consciousness, coming in, picking up all these energies, negatively and positively charged in the form of electric, magnetic, and plunk. Suddenly you have reality. Suddenly you have the algorithm of God. Suddenly you have manifestation. So now let me wrap this all up. It's time for a new consciousness of God on this planet, and many will resist it. You don't have to go out and evangelize to anybody. It's just realizing it for yourself, and it's out there. It's one of the biggest inhibitors of freedom on this planet. God, religion, very old concepts. Once you get free of some of these old concepts of God, once it becomes an experience, a freeing, liberating experience, you start to understand how this all works. not from biological, scientific, but from the God algorithm. And then suddenly you're in it. You're not outside of it. It's not a mystery how these things happen. You're no longer dealing with power, so you don't have to worry about blowing up the universe or hurting somebody else. You're suddenly realizing how everything comes together. And then you suddenly start realizing how you are the God algorithm, how you affect everything, how you create everything. So there's a lot to go through on a single day, and I would like to end this just with a short mirab. There's a lot of thoughts, a lot of wondering where we're going to go, what you're supposed to be understanding, what you're supposed to get. Just stop a minute. Just stop a minute. It's just about being the experience of God, of Spirit, rather than having it is this vague mystery out there.